Hello, friends. It's John Klein III with episode 15 of Shadow and Flame with Magic, the podcast. And today we are going to review Generation X episode 2. Once again, thank you, Francisco, for providing the theme song to the podcast. Dear friend of the show. And Generation X issue 2 came out in April of 1995. Actually, it's cover dated April, but then the index says March 1995, so there's that. On the inside front cover is for Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. Returns on March 17th, just in time for St. Patrick's Day. Candyman, of course, if you say Candyman 5 times into the mirror, you can get a little visit. I think that's on you to enjoy. I think I've already said it 3 times, so if you want to rewind the podcast and take me to your bathroom, or I guess it could be any mirror, but if I need a mirror, bathroom's usually where I look. And Candyman. All right, that's on you to enjoy how you do it. And feel free to write in and be like, hey, that was only 4 times. I'm like, oh, man. Oh, Candyman. There. If it was 6, you know what to do or not do. Stanley presents Generation X. Hither Comes the Sugar Man. Created by Scott Lobdell and Chris Boccello. Inks by Mark Buckingham. Colors by Steve Pizzolatto and Electric Crayon. Lettering, Starkings, and Comic Craft worried over Bob Harris. Opening splash page is Ileana with a young friend, or probably likewise named, or like aged friend, Ace. And she's Ace is cold and hungry, and Ileana's asking her to be quiet. He's coming. You're new here, Ace. You don't know the rules. No fires till he's gone. No food. If he might smell it on your breath. Nothing that will draw attention to yourself. And we see the giant, what do they call these things? Oh, the pit. Is it called the pit? I'm on skip ahead a couple pages here. Burr. And here... Oh, the core. The Seattle core, to be specific. Spoilers for several pages. And we see the inner workings of the core. And Ileana is with Ace, and they're just trying to hide. And I find it interesting that Age of Apocalypse, Ileana Rasputin also finds herself in a hellscape. And just trying to survive it. This time with a friend. Well, I guess she had a friend in Kitty Pryde. But, that didn't end well for Kitty. Or fully for Ileana as well. Nothing that'll draw attention to yourself. And Ace is like, who's he? He's the Sugar Man. And this is the first appearance of Sugar Man, which I can only imagine makes this comic worth, like, I don't know, $1,000. And she tells her to shut up if she wants to live. And we just hear like this horrible, like, rich. Flipsy. Sugar Man's disgusting already. I mean, he doesn't look great. I don't know if we ever actually see him fully in this. And he goes, cheese! Like, and you see Ace and Ileana just hiding behind a rock. Tipsy. Which I don't know, is that him walking maybe? And he's gone. Means he picked someone else. But that's good, right? Ace says. In a way, but it also means we're still alive. Which just like Limbo, and I can only imagine Lobdell is doing this on purpose. But, like it's the small sacrifice, or it's the big sacrifices so you can survive just a little bit longer. There's an ad for Claracel. The acne wipes. Meanwhile, above in the not above ground And we see Matt with one T and Enrique, whose name I missed until I looked up this issue later. And they're just fooling around. They're talking about how many people they killed today. And Enrique's numbers... No. Matt's numbers are very low, but then you remember the family of 6 he killed. And Enrique's wondering if they ever feel bad, like for the grace of God. And Matt has no time for this. Meanwhile, a caravan shows up. Literally looks like an old school horse trolley, but with an engine and, tires. Oh, no, I guess horse trolleys have tires. But we see Skin is riding it, but he's in disguise with a cool cloak. And actually, now I look at it, it's a green cloak, just like Bruno in Kanto, though we're not supposed to talk about him. And so they're trying to figure out if, since it's just the two of them taking a ride, if they wouldn't mind dropping them off at Club Deluge. And he's like, no problemo, amigos. Ugh, my Spanish accent. Atrocious. Mi casa is su casa. And so they're talking about more, and then they notice they do have a third companion or a mysterious companion in the drawing. And they want to know if he can spare a light. And Chamber, of course, is nothing but light. And he just blasts them to shreds. And Skin's not super thrilled because they're supposed to leave enough of the costumes behind so they can wear them as disguises. But Chamber doesn't answer the question if there is enough. He just wants them to drive, but Skin's worried about the giant explosion that anyone could have witnessed. Fair Ultras spreading their wings from Marvel trading cards to Reboot trading cards, which I can only imagine you can buy the full set on eBay for $7. And now we get to the page that was very helpful, as Colossus narrates, "My name is Pyotr Nikovich Rasputin. This is unimportant." This is my Russian accent. "Save for the fact it is the surname I share with Ilyana Nikovina Rasputin, my only living relative." Which maybe he's not recognizing Mikhail as one of the horsemen. Unless Mikhail's dead at this point. But they talked about, and this is me not reading every speech balloon, but and now here I am trying to read it. But there was an implication about how they're trying to... Oh, no, I think it's later. Ugh, I'm the worst. Anyways. My only living relative, my sister. For years, I believe her dead. Slaughtered in the Kiev culling. Now worse, I discover she is trapped. Here, in the Seattle core, based on the High Lord Apocalypse's energy source for all America. The thought of her being in there all these years is more than I can bear. And she looks barely 15, maybe 12. So she's been there for years. Maybe she's been there since she was 8. Or maybe, I guess, since she's 6 and we're supposed to make direct parallels to Limbo. And Katya, because I don't think she calls herself Kitty at all here. He goes, "You got to be kidding me, Peter. We're supposed to break into there?" "Supposed to and going to, Katya. Our students are going to walk in the front door while we're all going back around the back, just like we planned." We, Kimosabe? Because it was the 90s and people were saying Kimosabe a bunch. Which I question if Xavier died in the 60s and Apocalypse has ruled pretty much ever since. What popularized Kimosabe would have existed, but we're not supposed to dwell too deeply in this. "Keep her in perspective. The suicide run was your idea." And he narrates, "She is my beloved Katya Pride Rasputin. While there are precious few priests or rabbis left in this world to conduct a proper service, we have long considered ourselves man and wife. I was for her and she for me, almost from the moment we met. For some reason, I don't think she's happy that I might have found my sister at long last. If you do not feel up to it, Katya, I am more than willing to do it alone." That's what I'm afraid of. "Pardon?" "Nothing, dear. Less than nothing. So he's dressed as a farmer. Well, I guess they're both farmers. And at first I questioned like her styling choices, but I think they're supposed to be undercover. Like if people happen upon them, they can disguise or claim that they're local farmers. Where they find giant overalls for Colossus is beyond me. Although I guess if mutants are the norm and Apocalypse himself is usually 9 feet tall, maybe big and tall stores are regular things. So she's wearing like an orange cloak, a green like skirt with, I don't know, horrid orange stripes, and a red scarf, red gloves. The gloves actually are pretty cool. And I'm on record, Chris Bachalo, like especially in the Mike Carey run of X-Men, like the way he draws gloves and boots. I mean the best gloves and boots in the business. I don't know if his competition's stiff, but when asked, I'll say Chris Bachalo. And if you ask me like, hey buddy, who draws the best gloves and boots? And I look at you puzzled. It's probably because I'm either mentally trying to think of why you're asking me that question, or if I want to make that Leonard Nimoy secrets segment from Conan O'Brien, where I'd be like, how dare you talk to me? So I'll probably be debating that. But I would like to think, and you're like, hey buddy, don't think about it too much. I'll be like, oh, okay, Chris Bachalo. And in this fun scenario I'm describing, I'm really enjoying you calling me buddy, by the way. Anyways. Road Rash 3, The Rash is Back, coming to Genesis, which I never even heard of that franchise, but apparently it's the nastiest, no-holds-barred motorcycle combat game ever. There's nothing quite like the feeling of nipple surfing on asphalt. Take its word. Look, Peter, all I'm saying is we're all being asked to risk a lot on the word of a lunatic named Bishop. Bishop, what does that even mean? I mean, besides saving your sister, what are we... Hey, don't wait up or anything. Yuts. And then someone grabs her with a big yank. Colossus continues narrating. It's not like my love to go for more than, say, a moment or two without saying something. I return a check on her. And you just see Kitty's red glove in the shadow. And apparently there's fiends who live in the mountains called Undercloaks. Looks like they're just little dudes with like all black outfits and gray goggles. I guess like those brown cloak figures in Star Wars, which I used to have a toy of. And of course I just called them, brown desert characters from Star Wars. They have cool names, I'm sure. Yabbas? That sounds right. That was a different podcast. I'll pause it and look it up, but this would be like the third time I paused it. No, Michael Ian Black will not pause it, but he'll work into the thing in Obscure Season 2 where he'd be like, let's go to the lookup machine, the search engine, and he makes like a cranking sound. Pretty adorable and inspiring. Like swallowing words over here. Undercloaks, filthy little ferrets scurrying on... Oh, he's narrating this. On the fringes of Sugarman's defense perimeters, laying about the shadows, killing at their leisure, shadow permitting. In the harsh light of the moon, they become tangible. And Kitty's like, perfect timing, my love. Vulnerable. Says me. Oh, yeah, because the Undercloak is like, says you. He's like, says me. Think we flatlined him before he could path the central? Oh, I guess they're telepaths. I don't think it matters. Bottom line, we're going in. The spa, downtown. And we see Mr. Quietus, as Husk describes. And Husk is in some type of like blue bikini with a yellow belt, an orange bottle on her hip, and like a see-through bathrobe, I guess, essentially. But, a sexy bathrobe, even though Husk has to be barely like 16 here. Which I guess makes Cat 20. I don't know, X-Men ages. Why are we even trying to do this? And Mr. Quietus, who I had to look it up, and it looks like he's a new character to the X-Men world, or just comics essentially. First and only appearance. But it looked like in 2004 there was another Quietus, and it's Quietus. He has a tattoo of the radiation symbol on his right shoulder. And he reminds me of a character, but I can't put my thumb on it. I mean, I can put my thumb on the picture. Just like this. Can you hear it? Man, you don't get that anywhere else. And he's wondering where his regular girl is. And she says, I reckon she's sick. Not too hard to look at. You do in a pinch. Come. She's like, well, thank you, sir. Yeah, don't be sorry. This is my Husk impression, which I guess is a Kentucky accent. Which I'm not doing. Never am. And she's like, well, there's a first time for everything, Gene Trash. And soon. And so she's trying to be impressed with his room. Because he's big and disgusting. And she's like sniffing her orange bottle. She puts it, and she's pouring drinks. And he's like, you talk a lot. He's like, sorry, I'm not used to being around such impotent people. He's like, meant to say important, no? It's probably like the funniest joke this issue has. Of course, important, silly me. Don't be impressed by my stature. Despite my title, I'm a mutant like any other. I have wants, needs, desires. That's why you're here. She's like, I'm honored. And then they do a big old smooch. There's an ad for MTV's home video with Beavis and Butthead collection. And two other titles I do not. Oh, The Year in Rock of 1994. The Year in Rock 1994 and the Best of Liquid TV. Which I remember Liquid TV. Is that what gave us the Max at first? Maybe? And then Hustler starts spitting and coughing. And then he points to his jukebox. And he calls it a vaporizer. Makes most mutants violently sick except me. It's how I detect mutant turncoats. Assassins. And she's just coughing, be like, neat trick, I'm impressed. He's like, not my goal to impress you. I have no tolerance for genetic wannabes. Mutant, on the other hand, no, genetic wannabes. Mutant on the outside, human on the inside. He's like, who do you work for? And she's like, none of your business, loser. He's like, a lot of courage in you. I enjoy that in a girl. It means I get to break you slowly. Fortunately, the night is still young, and I don't have to be at work until 7, even have time for a drink. She's like, please, no, it was my mother's, please, as he like reaches for this orange flask. He's like, your mother smells of elderberries. And it's like, gulp, 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 gulp. And then Husk smiles until he throws her into the wall with a giant slam. These are like pretty legit, like, fonts. He's like, you clearly aren't part of the Eurasian Human High Council. You're too young to be an X-Man unless Magneto's lowering his standards, which means you might be one of Mikhail's recruits. Oh yeah, here we go. This is where the Mikhail references. Trying to fudge Holocaust's numbers to make him look bad in front of Apocalypse. Which, once again, I can't believe Holocaust was allowed to be a name in a... I know someone was trying to make an argument about, like, well, with Magneto being the hero of this world, a villain called Holocaust is a cheap way to be like, you know, to get some heat, to borrow a wrestling term. But, you know, this is those short villain takes you do of just like a little bit, like with a name choice. And then she's like choking, like, I'll give you lowered standards. Ah, so you're an X-Man. My turn to be impressed. This is one of the most heavily fortified Apocalypse operations. Why would suddenly you people be interested? Tell me, or so help. Oh, which is just a fun idea. Like, he drinks a liquid at the bottom of one page. You turn the page. By the time you get to the bottom of the next page, like the poison's already taking effect. And he's like, I don't feel so... And all of a sudden, all this liquid bursts out of him. And we see it's Vincente, who I guess can take form of any mass or liquid or solid. And I had to look him up, which I should have done last issue. But apparently he was a Generation X member who never got a code name. So he was always this Vincente, whatever his last name is. And he was like around Generation X issue 12, which putting back issue 1 of Generation X. I noticed I had issue 48 for whatever reason. So that's curious. And then Vincente's not happy with how he was drank, and so he had to come out of Quietus, through his throat. And she's like, if I reckon rightly, Vinny, and he corrects her, Vincente, please. It was your idea to hide in the flask in your liquid state. But I didn't think he would want to drink me. Had I known that, I wouldn't have bothered showering this morning. So anyways, everyone's wiping off and getting ready to do their next piece. And they're looking for and so they're looking for files through Quietus's office, looking to see where they can find Ileana. As if the file was saying, oh, she's in Quadrant 8, and that's where she stays. But maybe. And then we cut to outside. A man's checking the radiator. Not the radiator. What do you call that thing that's outside the meter? And all of a sudden, the wall goes, psst. And the guy goes, huh? Mondo said, psst. And he yanks him. And he yanks him so he can take the form of to enlarge his own, or to give his bulk. Actually, I don't know why. Mondo, who I always get confused with Skin, thinking they're the same character, which is on me. So he absorbs the guy's body to give himself the bulk to impersonate Quintus. And then we see Quietus is walking, but it's Mondo using the guy, the radiator inspector, the inspector's body. Then Husk used her remaining of her power to bulk it up even more and to change the size of his head. And let's see here. But using your power to fill the added mass and... Oh, okay. So Vincente's using his power to increase the mass. To fill out the added mass I lost to mimicking Quietus's head ain't inspiring a bucket of confidence. And so they're looking, and then they catch up to... Oh, so now they're just walking the grounds pretending to be Quietus. And, who was a high foreman, apparently. And then they notice Skin and Chamber. And so they recruit them to be their assistants for the these two herd workers accompany me on my rounds this morning. There's something about hanging out with the ugliest ones. And one of the goons is like, I understand, sir, of course. Below, far below. And I guess people, their job today is to keep burrowing to the mountain. And so this one guy with green, who's bald, but with I guess Hulk Hogan hair, but it just goes from the back of his head down into a beard. It's quite the look. And he spits off water, hitting Ileana in the face. And Ace is like, is it safe, Yana? Yeah, as safe as it gets. If you can believe it, this was the upbeat positive chapter. Next issue, things get worse. And we have an X-Facts 2-page February 1995 reality check with X-Men Alpha, a cast from the past. Cover showcase with Astonishing X-Men, art by Joe Madureira and Tim Townsend. The wish list is Astonishing X-Men 2. The X-Men take on Apocalypse's forces head-on as they try to prevent a massive genetic culling in Chicago. Plus the maniac menace of Apocalypse's most favored horseman, Holocaust, by Scott Lobdell and Joe Madureira, or Joe Mad on the streets. X-Men 2, tracked by Domino and her hunters, Excess leads X-Men and Co. to a genetic factory into the hands of Apocalypse's zealous followers, the Madri. Plus Excess's secret in Discovered, and someone pays for it with their life, by Jeff Loeb and Steve Carose? It's probably Carosi, right? Skroce, who I know mostly as a Wolverine artist. Generation Next 2, the generation of X-Men, the next generation of X-Men descended to the darkest depths of Apocalypse's slave pens as the search for Illyana Rasputin continues. Plus the introduction of the sweetest villain of all, the Sugar Man, by Scott Lobdell and Chris Boccello. Weapon X2, helping the human evacuation of North America, Logan and Jean discover ideological differences that threaten to tear the happy couple apart. Will they reconcile their differences before Pierce and his gene technology augmented humans sabotage the entire operation? By Larry Lama and Adam Kubert. Excalibur 2, ignorant of the fact he's being tailed by Damask and the Pell Riders, Nightcrawler embarks on a perilous sea voyage in search of the mystic Avalon, but the Madri continue to destroy the Inferno Gallop. He may never arrive, by Warren Ellis and Roger Cruz. So the Madri's in 2 of these, huh? Amazing X-Men 2, seeking to aid the Sentinels' evacuation of the human population. The X-Men seek risk their lives to prevent any further genocide and end up going toe-to-toe with some of Apocalypse's fearsome enforcers, the Evil Brotherhood. Plus by the Malevolence of the Mischievous Abyss, by Fabian Nicieza and Andy Corbett. So we were getting both Andy and Adam on these in the X titles. So what a day that was. Factor X2, there's trouble in the mutant hierarchy as Sinister continues to elude Apocalypse's forces. Tensions between the Summers brothers mount even further when Havoc discovers who is responsible for freeing the slaves from the pens. Can we imagine that means Cyclops? By John Francis Moore and Steve Epting, which I think John Francis Moore was an X-Force writer, right? With the team. And Gambit and the Externals 2, Slingshot to the Other Side of the Galaxy by Leah Cheney's newfound mutant powers. The Externals go where no mutant has ever dared to go, into the heart of the Shi'ar Imperium. When they steal the Imkron crystal from the Mad Emperor Deacon, or get pinched by the interstellar band of freebooters known as the Starjammers, by Fabian Nicieza and Tony Daniel. Then we get an ad for Spider-Man the Animated Series, Saturday mornings on Fox Kids. Stop crawling the walls. The moment you've been waiting for has arrived. Pretty legit. Well, unlegit is like how predominant the Twin Towers are in this ad. But it's New York, so, Spider-Man and New York together. And then the back cover ads for Stargate. It will take you 1,000,000 light years from home, but will it bring you back? Actually, I'm sorry. It's the Stargate video game by Acclaim. Coming soon to Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Gear, Game Boy. Amazing Game Gear and Game Boy were allowed to exist at the same time. Seems lazy on Game Gear's part. And the back cover ad is X-Men, Game Master's Legacy on Sega Game Gear. Which I don't recognize Game Master's Legacy, but sure. It has, I guess, the Game Master holding Storm, Cyclops, Bishop, whose one hand is green, part because he's powering up, and Wolverine. The lethal labyrinth of the pyramids holds a host of deadly surprises for Rogue and hidden power-ups as well. Gambit's staff allows them to fight at any distance. Play your cards carefully, especially with Fabian Cortez in town. Use Bishop to dodge the deadly tornadoes of Serena Blaze and take the fight to her. Coming soon, Marvel Comics X-Men Clone Wars on Sega Genesis. I don't know. What a time to be alive. I don't remember any of those games. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to episode 15 of Shadow and Flame with Magic. You can follow the blog at shadowandflamewithmagic.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, if you are daring, Tumblr, as Jackal SIII. And on YouTube, I just posted a victory I got using Healthy skins. So now I'm going to be going back to using my Kitty Pryde skins. Fortnite released these very super customizable soccer skins not too long ago, and I bought one and used it to create a cool yellow and black Kitty Pryde and an Excalibur blue Kitty Pryde. And then I created a classic Kitty Pryde using the superhero skins, and then there's a zombie hero skin that I turned into naturally a zombie Kitty Pryde. So I'm going to be using those skins, just rotating all 4 of them as I make new item shop videos. So there's that to get excited about. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at SNFWM. Well, I haven't really done anything, as I was going to just take pictures of Lockheed, and I've got to do an image or do a comic with Lockheed in a bit. But Dim's the price you pay for having a structure of a show. So we got 2 more issues of Generation X, and then I'm going to review an issue 41 of a comic. Probably be Excalibur, because I know for sure I have issue 41 of that. And then for February, I still got to find 4 issues in my comics with Ant-Man. And then I don't know what I'm going to do in March, but that's what we got going so far. Got big plans for when the Guardians movie comes out in May. And I think I'm going to, because it's either like, do I spend April leading up to the Guardians, or do I wait until May to do a Guardians? But I think I'm going to start in May and then go from there. And then, so those are some short-term, long-term goals. Then November will be the Marvels, and I'll probably just do a bunch of Carol Danvers comics that I know for sure I have, especially her Binary Days. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on. So, thank you so much for listening. And if you'll give the if you will give the podcast 5 stars and a like or follow on whatever you are listening, whatever platform you're listening to. I'm the worst at outros, apparently. I really appreciate it, and every bit helps the podcast. Well, until next week, and bye.